Diana Ross approached me, smiling, speaking playfully with some attitude. "You're a little young to be in here, aren't you?" A couple stools further down the bar, my cousin engaged in an animated discussion with two mean-looking guys. I told Diana that I was old enough and man enough to handle her, forgetting two things for the moment. Diana wasn't a her, but a knockout drag queen look-alike, and as far as I knew, I was not what was then called queer. My cousin grabbed me, saying we had to get going. Many of the guys seemed quite angry at him for bringing an underage kid into the bar, knowing they were facing frequent police raids. If I got nailed there with no ID, that was all the authorities would need to shut this important social center down. Joanne's was a little out-of-the-way place on Payne Avenue in Cleveland. Like so many queer bars, they always had to be on the lookout for police. Sometimes they could go for weeks with no trouble. Sometimes they could expect police harassment almost every night. I've been reminded of this story, over a half-century old, as I've listened to the news from Chechnya the last few months regarding the systematic torture, imprisonment, and murder happening today and every day in their country, where men are regularly arrested just for being gay. One of Russia's republics, this government recently encouraged the abduction and detention of 100 gay and bisexual men. Up to 20 of them have been reported killed or missing. The rest beaten and tortured. Human Rights Watch and other rights organizations are seeking worldwide action as Chechnyan families are encouraged to commit honor killings against gay men, to rid the family of the stain of gayness. There are even reports of gay prisoners being released from prison early so their families can then kill them. The homophobia permeates the entire society. Well, there were rarely these kind of honor killings in the early 1960s when my queer cousin took me to Joanne's. America was still a very dangerous place for him. When they were bored, some of the teen guys from my neighborhood all those years ago would go downtown and hang on the mall, where so-called queers who either didn't feel comfortable going to the few bars that existed in town or were virtually isolated in their lives would cruise, looking for guys to pick up. My heterosexual friends took great pleasure in bragging about rolling a queer, which meant beating up and robbing a man who was seeking a sexual partner in a society that made his basic identity and orientation illegal. This FAG fishing, as it was later called, provided easy money and a way to get their aggression out, knowing that the victim would almost never go to the police. As we condemn the Chechnyan hate campaign and the many other countries where homophobia and discrimination are so commonplace, we must face that even in our country, the insults, threats, and assaults are not ancient history. It's been less than 20 years since Matthew Shepard was tortured and murdered, just 1 year since the Pulse nightclub massacre claimed 50 lives. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, hundreds of hate crimes are committed against lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer community members every year. There are still many states with no anti-discrimination laws for employment, housing, and public accommodations. And we are not many years removed from various state efforts to bar gay and lesbian teachers from elementary school classrooms. Gay, lesbian, and transgender children are frequent victims of bullying in the schools. Now, we have a president who has declared that our transgender brothers and sisters can no longer serve our country in the armed forces. At the same time, this president's Justice Department has declared that the Civil Rights Act does not cover sexual orientation. In the meantime, 3 days before this writing, A local transgender resident, after months of harassment, was attacked with a brick, a plank, and a helmet by a group that then posted a video of the attack on Snapchat. My cousin was 19 years old when he came out to our family in about 1960, at a time when the medical community considered homosexuality a mental illness. He and his partner died in an accident over a decade later, likely never dreaming that they could have one day legally married in Ohio. While there has been a dramatic shift in general attitudes over the past 30 years here and in nations around the world, if we truly want to give all children a chance to be free, we must continue to challenge the homophobia and the sexist oppression that fuels it, wherever we find them, including in ourselves.